I've been wanting to watch this video for forever, and it's finally time to watch it.
My only crime is wanting a two-state solution instead of one. And thinking it's not okay to kill Israeli civilians. That's it.
At the end of January this year, Hila Klein of H3H3 Productions posted what is undeniably one of the most popular pieces of pro-Israel propaganda that the internet has seen in months. The video boasts more than 200,000 likes and over 3 million views. And whilst Ethan would probably balk at this video being called pro-Israel, it was even initially sponsored by ExpressVPN, an Israeli-owned company whose owners have extensive links to the Israeli military through funding it, and also even going as far to fund trips for Israeli soldiers perpetrating the genocide in Gaza to go back and see their family. Now, the original goal of Ethan's video was to deplatform and discredit the Twitch streamer Hassan Piker. However, the video has backfired because although Ethan had been on a near 15-month-long crash out from October of 2023 until January of 2025, what Ethan did is expose the paradoxical nature of his position, which he maintains is pro-Palestine, to an even larger audience than before. Put simply, you cannot maintain the notion that you are pro-Palestine when you use your YouTube platform of nearly 6 million subscribers to spread the exact same talking points that have been utilized by the Israeli government to justify the extermination of tens of thousands of Palestinian people. Now, I have already made multiple videos on this which have accumulated well in excess of 1 million views on TikTok, but Hila Klein has chosen over and over again to ignore these videos in favor of going after smaller content creators who often make jokes at his expense but do not offer succinct criticisms of his thought. So what I thought I would do is critique Ethan's thought and demonstrate that he is not at all pro-Palestine, because he is nothing more than a Westerner whose thought is dominated by Orientalism, and he therefore simply cannot offer a succinct political understanding of anything to do with the Middle East. Now, the concept of Orientalism was proffered by Edward Said. It was the first thing that I learnt about when I started my Middle Eastern Studies degree as an undergraduate back in 2019, and what it basically refers to is that—
Why is he yelling? He's just British, man. They can't help that. Okay, man? Come on. Look past your bigotry. Someone you know might be gay. Someone you know might be British.
distinction between them and us, them being non-Westerners and us being Westerners. And according to Said, this was produced through discourse, and what he meant by this was anything from travel writings, newspapers, stories, depictions, anything that you could think of which created a vision of people from the Middle East or the wider Orient. It is at its most basic media which seeks to create this distinction between them and us, and Ethan's video is a perfect example of it. Through this Orientalism and the discourse it produces, an essentialized image of the Oriental or Middle Easterner is created that is backwards, uncivilized, violent and savage, which is juxtaposed against the civility of the Occident or the West. Now, what is important to note here is that Orientalism is dialectical. It is not just about denigrating the other, creating this barbarous savage. It has always been about making Westerners feel superior, feel better about themselves, and so as to establish themselves as moral and enlightened, even when their politics and behavior shows an
He yells like my mom when she talks on the phone. Wait, same.
exact opposite. Ethan's content around Palestine is a perfect example of this. He consistently deploys Orientalism to assuage his own feelings and to maintain the notion that he is pro-Palestine, and so he never has to avow the disgusting right-wing talking points that he spreads and the violence that these inflict on Palestinian people. Take this part of Ethan's so-called content nuke, where he speaks gleefully about the assassination of senior Hamas figures.
Disvalues, or, well, they were billionaires. Because they're all dead.
They're killed, they're all dead.
Or this part where he condemns Hassan Piker for his endorsement of Syed Hassan Nasrallah, the former leader of Hezbollah, who was killed in an Israeli strike last year.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
Do we like them or no?
They are a terrorist organization. Like they're designated. They are designated by the American state as a terrorist organization.
I do not like them then.
Well, like
I like what you like.
I don't have an issue with them. Let's just say.
This is Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. According to Hassan Piker, this man is a brilliant freedom fighter. But before we get into that, let's see how he feels about Jewish people. Here are some choice quotes from Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. According to Shaul Shai, Hassan Nasrallah said in a speech delivered in Beirut, "What do the Jews want? They want security and money. Throughout history, the Jews have been Allah's most cowardly and avaricious creatures. If you look all over the world, you will find no one more miserly or greedy than they are."
Now, at first, I was
You can tell he really cares about the issue because he put the whimsical music on it.
going to let this section of the content nuke play because it seemingly shows anti-Semitic statements by the leader of Hezbollah. But a quick look into this shows that much like the rest of Ethan's video, the sourcing is just absolutely terrible. He has gone on Wikipedia and repeated unequivocally what is put on there without bothering to check the veracity of anything. So let's quickly go through them. The first quote comes from the book of an Israeli official, Shaul Shai, the former head of the IOF's military history department, a lifelong Israeli soldier. So it may be that this man made up his claims, especially since the articles he cites in his book are almost impossible to find now. And we all know that Israel, its government and senior officials don't necessarily love telling the truth. The second quote is not actually from Nasrallah. The source that Wikipedia cites is noted to be incorrect in this 2012 article. It is not a quote from Nasrallah. The third quote is perhaps the most outrageous of all of them cited by Ethan, because it is noted on the Wikipedia page that this is likely a lie. It literally notes that Charles Glass says...
And this is the problem with the entirety of one, Ethan's content, but also the content puke. There's so much misinfo in there that if you wanted to go in and break down every single bit of it, you would be there for days. Like, literally days. I mean, even just like anyone who's seen any propaganda ever, even just looking at this quote right here, according to this person, Hassan Nasrallah said this. Like, can you imagine if I pulled up some text on my screen and it said, according to Bad Empanada, or according to fucking, I don't know, like Joe Rogan, Ethan Klein says that he loves to jerk off to images of Hassan Piker and says, "I really can't stop doing it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't stop doing it. I can't stop scrolling through his Instagram page, and I really have a problem." And, well, that's, again, just according to what this person said, that this person said. Like, stupid, sexy Hassan. But he, like, even on it, like, just on its face, trying to consume the content puke on its own, that anyone would fall for any part of this, it's so crazy. It's like, where's the due diligence on anyone's part ever at all? But also you have to understand that, like, the people that started watching Ethan Klein to begin with, they just started watching him because he made funny vape videos, right? They didn't start watching him because they thought that he was good at deep Middle Eastern analysis.
Notes that Charles Glass says that this was fake, and the managing editor of the newspaper that it was first published in said he had no faith in the article. The fourth quote is not from Nasrallah. The fifth, there is apparently no specific source provided in the book A Privilege to Die, but it does appear in the text of Hezbollah's Al-Ad. as well as in the same English language collection of Nasrallah's speeches. However, straight after is an emphasis that Hezbollah's fight is with Israel and not with Jews. The final quote is just a citation from the Ministry of Israeli Foreign Affairs. I am sorry, but I don't buy their nonsense so quickly. This is a ministry for a government that lies constantly. I mean, just this week, senior military officials in Israel felt comfortable lying about an overt war crime. They claim that Palestinian paramedics who were executed whilst driving their ambulances didn't have their lights on, were acting suspiciously.
Well, the IDF did not randomly attack an ambulance. Last Sunday, several uncoordinated vehicles were identified advancing suspiciously toward IDF troops without headlights or emergency signals.
And now there is literal video evidence showing the exact opposite. Israel will say and do anything because they rely on morons like Ethan believing absolutely anything because it fits with their narrative that the other are barbarous and evil monsters who commit crimes constantly. But then consider Ethan's reaction to this clip of his wife.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump coded.
Or he was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
And he got rid
Gallant, the moderating voice.
of him, or at least a more moderate voice. I don't know anything about the guy. Just recognize his picture. He looked mean. I thought he was mean just because he looked mean.
No.
In the video, Hila is endorsing Yoav Gallant, Israel's former defense minister, a man who is wanted by the International Criminal Court, whose crimes far supersede any of those committed by either Nasrallah or any other leader of Hamas, the Houthis, or anyone you can think of. This is a man who said openly he wanted a total siege of the Gaza Strip.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
He is the man who prosecuted the genocide, which Ethan loves to say that he opposes. And yet he let his wife take a break with almost no pushback, even though she referred to him as a really great guy. Hila and Ethan's claim was that they didn't really know who Yoav Gallant was or what he was like, even though that clip of Yoav Gallant claiming that Israel was going to institute a total siege was noted by South Africa at the International Court of Justice and was a very popular clip for noting Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. And so what I think that this is indicative of is either one of two things, which is that Ethan and Hila don't know anything about Israel, Palestine, colonization, and the wider Middle East North Africa region, which is undeniably true, or that Hila could not take the backlash when they avowed their actual views, which I think is the...
I mean, isn't there literally a... Sorry, not isn't there. There is literally a clip of Ethan talking to his... one of his employees, Dan, and he's saying... Sorry, I got distracted by something else. And he's saying, Bibi, what a weird name. What a weird name, Bibi. And Dan says, yeah, I wonder how, like, you get Bibi from Benjamin. He says, who the hell's Benjamin? Okay, it doesn't say who the hell's Benjamin. He's like, Benjamin's his first name? Really? I didn't know that. Wow. That's the guy who's trying to talk about Israel and Israel's problems and talk about who the real enemy is in the Middle East. Wait, for real? Yes, that clip exists. It is real. I need to see this clip. If somebody else has it, please. But like...
15 months, no brain rot.
It's because he doesn't care about this issue. He's never cared about this issue. It's because he cares about his perception by the public. And he is waging this war to begin with because he doesn't like that he lost favor on the internet for opinions that he had about Israel. And now it's become this like spite show. He doesn't actually care about taking down Hassan's anti-Semitism or that Twitch actually has an anti-Semitism. He doesn't give a fuck about that. Are you kidding me? He's never given a fuck about that. He has a personal vendetta against people who he feels like have wronged him. I mean, this is, from my understanding, this is pretty recent. This clip.
I think he's feeling the squeeze, man. I think Hassan is. He's feeling. Man. You know? I don't think he's getting away with it much longer. I think he's feeling exposed. I think he's really. I think it's trying to. I think he might need to take a break from the internet. He seems to be doing like he seems to be crashing out, or something's clearly wrong with him the way he's ranting on Twitter. I think he just needs to take a break. You know, he's a 40-year-old man without a family or kids, and he's spending all day on Twitter. You know, like get drama farming. I mean, it's really getting a little pathetic, man. But honestly, on a serious note, I do think I don't know if he's in therapy or if he's on any kind of psychiatric drugs. I think that he should look into that, just because it's helped me a lot, you know. And I just think, you know, I think his crew, I think his friends and family need to intervene.
He sounds insane. He sounds like a crazy person. He literally sounds insane.
Actually, I think it's time for Cutie Cinderella and Ludwig and Austin and Will. I think it's time to have an intervention with Hassan. He is not doing well. These people who, by the way, and Hassan, who's so eager to talk about everything I say about him, hasn't said a single word about the housekeeper. Has anybody noticed?
Nothing to say, nothing to say. You know, Ethan, someone who's very excited to talk about everything everyone says about him, has failed to mention my video breaking down the fact that everything he said is a lie. Nothing to say? Nothing? No comment? Interesting.
His peculiar silence on the housekeeper issue. Peculiar. Based?
I like how he's foaming at the mouth at the idea of like this random woman that may or may not exist being deported. You made this issue up and now you're foaming at the mouth at the idea of getting a random person deported.
That's all I have to say about that. I think
that's all I have to say about that. Surely you won't talk about this tomorrow or the day after or the day after or... It's also most likely just his mom. Yeah, but did you consider that the woman was brown? How do we know it's not his housekeeper?
The more likely of the two.
But did you consider my hallucinations?
Because the idea that they just didn't know who Yoav Gallant was, one of the most senior figures in Israel's military, is fundamentally ridiculous. And so this would mean that Hila endorsed a man whose war crimes far eclipse any of those perpetrated by the organizations that Ethan thinks Hassan should be deplatformed for portraying in even a semi-positive light and offering context for why they do what they do. So why is it that Ethan just does not carry the same energy for when it comes to his wife in comparison to Hassan Piker? And what makes this even worse is that Ethan didn't just let Hila get away with this with basically no pushback. He actually took to his Instagram stories to defend her, arguing that the quote was a result of being after October the 7th. I mean, he doesn't provide this kind of charity to people like Nasrallah or people from Lebanon, people in the Houthis or wherever, who have suffered under Western imperialism and larger terror attacks than October the 7th. No, he just thinks that this applies to Israelis only, and he doesn't seem fussed that his wife endorsed a man who referred to Palestinians as human animals, because whilst he seeks to make the distinction and say, oh, he was probably only talking about Hamas, the thing is that this was the man who oversaw the Gaza genocide that Ethan says he condemns, but he doesn't mind this man referring to Palestinians as human animals so as to establish them as subhumans worthy of death. No, he thinks that that's completely fine because he was a moderating voice who wanted to end the war. But he didn't want to end the war because of his opposition to the Gaza genocide. He just wanted to end the war because he thought all of Israel's aims had been achieved and that no more aims could be achieved via military means. So all of the destruction and mass killing that was already perpetrated in the Gaza Strip, well, he thought that was enough. This isn't even the first time that Ethan or Hila have displayed their love for a figure who is undeniably implicated in racially motivated slaughter. Take George Bush, for example, who in this 2017 clip, Ethan says he loves.
I got to tell you, I saw George Bush on what was it, Jimmy Kimmel? And I was like, man, I love this guy. I love George Bush.
As a dude,
he's a fucking...
George Bush
he's got a lot of character.
He's a bro, dude.
You know, he's like painting. He just made a book of portraits.
What the fuck is this art? No comment.
He's drawing portraits of veterans.
This was a guy who said he wanted to launch a crusade in the Middle East and then went on to do so.
And the American people are beginning to understand this crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
Slaughtering hundreds of thousands of Iraqi people, all in the name of oil, something which Alan Greenspan, the former chairman of the Federal Reserve, literally admitted in 2006.
Hey, this is journalism. It's so weird. Motherfuckers want journalism, and when I'm trying to do journalism, they go, "Why are you doing that?" What do you mean? I'm just chilling. We're just vibing. Yeah, we're just vibing. We're vibing big time.
Hassan uncritically interviewed this kid for about an hour. It was the most brazen display of disgusting terrorist propaganda that I have maybe ever seen in Western media.
So if a 19-year-old from Yemen who isn't even actually a member of the Houthis but simply supports them is an evil terrorist who shouldn't be allowed a platform, what does that make Ethan and Hila, people who endorse war criminals responsible for the slaughter of far, far more people than the Houthis?
Left or right, I always thought that, despite our differences, there was one thing we could all agree on. And what was that? That we love America and everything she stands for.
And then there's this part of the content nuke, which has leapt out to me every single time I have watched it. Because why on earth would you say that everyone can agree on loving America? This is most certainly not a universal position. From Iraq to Cambodia to Vietnam to Afghanistan to Korea, across the...
That should have immediately been a red flag to any even remotely informed viewers. That Ethan has no idea what he's fucking talking about. Saying that we should all be able to agree, left or right, that we love America. Because if you're informed at all in, like, the geopolitics of America, you would know that a lot of countries don't like us for very good reasons. We've earned being hated as a country. We've earned it.
Entire world, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people have suffered under the yoke of American imperialism just over the last century. And even the wider nexus of states that the United States supports is obscene. Take its two current closest allies in the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Both are countries currently facing genocide cases at the International Court of Justice. The United Arab Emirates for its involvement in Sudan and Israel for its horrifying crimes in Gaza, which absolutely would not be possible without the rhetorical and material support that it was offered by both the Biden administration and the current Trump administration. If Israel didn't have the massive amounts of military aid, which America only sells to them so they can maintain an edge over other countries in the region, it would stand no chance against countries like Iran. And so to sit there and say, oh, I love America and we all agree on this, whilst America is responsible for the genocide that he claims to simultaneously condemn, is fundamentally ridiculous. And it really does show you that Ethan just does not like anything which is anti-Western. Any group who is anti-West are differently evil. They are monstrous savages whose ideology has no explanation, who are fueled by anti-Semitic hatred in most cases. But when it comes to the obscene violence of the United States, oh, well, you know, it's just politics and we all love it, really. I do not think the Orientalism which dominates Ethan Klein's thought could be any more clear. He sees a 19-year-old from Yemen, Rashid al-Haddad, as a monstrous, violent savage who is an anti-Semitic beast, which, by the way, the kid did apologize for, but he has no problem with his own thought. He never wants to confront the fact that he refers to America as something which we all love, even though it was the country which sold advanced weaponry to Saudi Arabia as it bombed Yemeni civilians. It was the country that refueled Saudi planes as they tore Yemeni weddings and other social events to pieces with their horrifying...
I mean, people still today, and a lot of people still today think the terrorists hate us because of our freedoms.
bombardment. It was the one who trained their pilots as they manufactured a siege and starved the people of Yemen. And this is what defined Rashid al-Haddad's life. And Ethan couldn't have some sympathy and say, you know what, this is what motivates this guy. This is why many Yemenis don't actually like the West. But instead of doing that, Ethan would rather sit there and essentialize them and try and portray this as it is some kind of innate anti-Semitism, some random hatred of the West. In the content nuke, Ethan literally refers to the Houthis as the bad guys.
All right, so these guys are clearly the bad guys.
Just like no analysis ever. Just none.
So my question is, how does
Sometimes I forget how bad the content puke was, and then we have to watch segments of it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was really bad.
Hassan cover such a genocidal, violent, misogynistic, homophobic, terroristic organization?
Which really does show his childish, marvelized understanding of politics, because if you think that the Houthis are somehow the evil baddies and America and Israel are some kind of axis of good, then I don't know what to say to you. You have the political acumen of a child. And Ethan's argument as to why they're the bad guys is the classic Orientalist tropes. He refers to their slavery based on some rather dubious evidence published by pro-Saudi outlets, and Ethan acts as if it is bizarre in his recent lawsuit to quibble with the State Department or what Saudi Arabian news outlets are saying. But anyone with a basic knowledge of how you write an academic essay or make an argument would tell you, well, if the Saudis are bombing the hell out of the Yemeni people and trying to claim that the Houthis are the evil of all evils, they might be willing to make things up. But what I think is most important to note about all of Ethan's condemnations of the Houthis for their regressive politics is that Israel, the progressive nation, which along with America he sees as the good guys, could be accused of all of these same things to a horrifying extent. I mean, take Israel's use of slavery. A recent article which appeared in Haaretz...
He's talking into the end of a side address mic? Yeah. Yeah, that's why the audio in the video is a little bad. Listen, people don't like it, but this is what nerds look like, okay? I'll fucking say it, man. This is the truth. The truth is that people who actually care about sitting there and reading, you know, like nerds, they don't know shit about tech, man. They're here, they're doing their best, man, all right? He's a TikToker, and TikTok is like one of the most user-friendly apps that exists. Like, your grandma's on TikTok, dude.
referred to the IOF practice of Israelis taking Palestinians as human shields and sometimes killing them for fun as a form of slavery. And when you think about it, denying these people autonomy and forcing them into a horrifying working environment is slave-esque, isn't it? And his highlighting of misogyny is the most obscene part, because yes, the Houthis are probably misogynistic. Misogyny is prevalent all over the entire world. But when it comes to Israel, the extremity of their gender-based violence is absolutely obscene. A recent UN report documented this disproportionate targeting of women and young girls. It targeted the use of sexual violence, how their reproductive rights are infringed upon by Israel. So stop sitting there and pretending that you're some kind of defender of women's rights because you oppose the Houthis, but generally seem to have no problem with the IOF, and you haven't made a near 2-hour-long video about Israel's supporters, people like Lonabox, who Ethan literally invited on his show. It is absolutely ridiculous. And Lonabox is a particularly important figure to highlight because Ethan, as I said, brought him on his show, but as the photo shows, he went on a trip to Israel, laughing and smiling along with Eylon Levy, Netanyahu's former spokesman, until he was fired over some personal issues. But ultimately, this guy has sought to make a career out of justifying the extermination of Palestinians. He was a pivotal figure, appearing on Western TV, using his British accent, which makes him endearing to Westerners, to justify the extermination of Palestinians, to lie about what was going on in Gaza so it was plausible for Israel to carry out its genocide. And since this point, he's continued making videos, including one from the other day where he explained why Palestinians had no right to the West Bank. And yet Ethan just does not care. He's not making 2-hour-long videos about Lonabox. He's making 2-hour-long videos about Hassan because he spoke to a 19-year-old. Hassan didn't spend time with the former spokesman of Benjamin Netanyahu, a man accused of leading a state perpetrating genocide. How can you reconcile the idea that you are pro-Palestine when you welcome Lonabox onto your show and don't care about this, yet spend your time crying about Hassan interviewing a 19-year-old? It is a choice to make a video like this which sought to
But again, like, Ethan Klein doesn't actually want to read anything. He doesn't want to actually change his worldview. He doesn't want to have a correct worldview. He wants to believe what's convenient for him to believe. Currently, what's the most convenient thing for him to believe is whatever will make sure that him and his wife stay together forever for love. So he will believe it no matter what he has to do, no matter how many bridges he has to burn, no matter how many people he has to convince himself are evil, terrible human beings, terrorist sympathizer.
Platform, one of the biggest pro-Palestinian voices on Twitch. It is a choice to engage in smears of the pro-Palestinian movement and to seek to exoticize any form of resistance against the state of Israel. You do not refer to Israel as the bad guys. You do not condemn people who openly support Israel, even though it engages in these excesses. Take homophobia. You have Israel's Minister of Finance who said that he was a proud homophobe. He's in control of the economy. In control of the Israeli police is Itamar Ben-Gvir, a man who is also homophobic and once kicked a transgender person and organized a rally in Jerusalem where they paraded around farm animals to mock pride parades. And you sit there and go...
And here's the thing, like, me personally, I think it's generally good policy, all right, to only listen to people who have skin in the game or care enough about an issue that they've been talking about that issue for enough time. Because, for example, with women's sports, all the women's sports defenders, they don't give a fuck about women's sports. Are you kidding me? I remember those same exact people when female athletes were trying their hardest to push for better reform, when they were trying to say, hey, listen, maybe the like American volleyball soccer team, maybe we as women don't want to wear underwear. Can we get the same shorts that men have? And lo and behold, those same people now that are pretending to care so much about we just care a lot about women and women's sports. They were the same people to see that and be like, everything's becoming woke, unbelievable. This is what feminism does. When women have said, hey, can we have like the same benefits that male athletes have? We understand that the pay is going to be different because it's an entertainment field, but we just like to be treated with the same level of respect. We'd like the same attentiveness from coaches and from media and all these other things. We'd like some benefits for our work. Guess what? The people who care so much about women's sports today, they did nothing but berate these women because they don't care about women's sports. They don't care about these issues. They care about whatever issues benefit them in whatever way. And you will not get genuine discourse or good discourse when it's coming from people who don't actually even care about it. You're not going to get genuine discourse from a guy who's too lazy to find out what the prime minister's first name is. He doesn't care about that. This is all his personal vendetta because he feels like he's being wrongfully attacked online.
Oh, the Houthis, they're homophobic, they're this, they're that. It is just pinkwashing, Ethan. You are seeking to create a barbarous other who is unlike the Westerner, who does not share our values, and therefore they are the bad guys, and anyone who might seek to offer them any form of context is someone who supports evil, terroristic, genocidal entities. But your own wife who endorsed Gallant, oh, you know, she's your wife, it's understandable. October the 7th had just happened. And then you think about the West allies, the people who oppose the Houthis, the good guys, according to Ethan Klein, the nexus of pro-Western states. You have Saudi Arabia, most of the Gulf countries, who use the kafala system, something which is equivalent to modern slavery. They invite foreign workers over under promises that they're going to find new and great lives in Saudi Arabia. Then they take their passports and effectively offer them no rights. And many people have referred to this as modern slavery. So why is it the nexus of pro-Western states are the good guys in Ethan's political understanding? Because whilst Ethan might say, well, I'll condemn Israel, I'll condemn Saudi Arabia, this is what America and Israel have helped to set up and maintain in the Middle East for decades now. They want dictatorial regimes like those of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, because these keep people quiet. You know, they will perhaps normalize with Israel, allow it to carry out its ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, destroy any hopes of a Palestinian state, whilst they hide behind the idea of a two-state solution. Any time that these things are perpetrated by an ally of the West, it doesn't matter. It's not a problem which is indicative of how rotten and evil these ideologies are to the core. Instead, for Ethan, it is just okay. It is something that is basically not even worth mentioning because it's perpetrated by the allies of the country that he so loves. Now, Ethan, the definitely pro-Palestine content creator, like many other pro-Israel news outlets and Zionist content creators online, chooses to focus on the Houthi slogan, "Death to America, a curse upon the Jews, death to Israel, victory to Islam." And whenever I've watched someone's video, you know, they've highlighted that it's just a slogan from people who are oppressed. But what I don't think they've noted is that Ethan comes from a country with elected officials like Randy Fine. I mean, let's just read out one of the statements that he put out on Twitter. "There is no suffering adequate for these animals. May the streets of Gaza overflow with blood." This man, who is part of the most powerful government in the world, that is actually making the streets of Gaza overflow with blood currently, and has been for a year and a half, well, that's okay, you know, we don't focus on those as representing the rotten nature of Western society, a pervasiveness of terrorism. No, that's the country that Ethan loves. For Ethan, the Houthis, whose attacks on Israel pertain specifically to Israel's genocide in the Gaza Strip, I mean, they literally stopped when there was a ceasefire. He is more obsessed with their slogans than the comments and sayings of high-up US officials about exterminating people in the Gaza Strip. And it's not just Randy Fine. You've got others like Brian Mast and many other senior American politicians who were happy to talk about exterminating Palestinians as Israel, their closest ally, actually did that.
I would encourage the other side to not so lightly throw around the idea of innocent Palestinian civilians, as is frequently said. I don't think we would so lightly throw around the term innocent Nazi civilians during World War II.
The Houthis are not doing that. Theirs may be a slogan which people find offensive. However, ultimately, they are not actually perpetrating the things that they are claiming. But let's not just focus.
Do you think videos like this are more for Ethan fans to hopefully watch rather than Ethan himself? I mean, yes and no. Ethan, I'm pretty sure he watched this and said, what does this guy know? And then this guy was like, well, my master's was in Middle Eastern studies, so more than you for sure.
Focus on America, the head of the snake. Let's also focus on Israel and the slogans that they love, because they're part of Ethan Klein's magical Avengers team who fight against the bad guys like the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. But here's an article by the Israeli Gershon Shafir from 1984, who notes that at present, Arabs are compared in sophisticated religious exegesis to the 7 Canaanite nations and to Amalek, and in a popular utterance to a donkey. Now, I think that this is particularly important because what you have here is documentation from the 1980s, before Benjamin Netanyahu had ever been prime minister, of Israelis referring to Palestinians as Amalek, a biblical enemy of Israel who must be wiped from the face of the earth. The same with the 7 Canaanite nations, the people who had to be destroyed for the existence of Israel. Why is it that people like Ethan love to talk about the Houthi slogans but don't like to talk about these? And this isn't even where it ends. What I'd also like to note is that in the 1980s, the slogan, "Death to Arabs," became popular, to the point where Heike Grossman, an Israeli member of the Knesset and also a Holocaust survivor, would note that she found it so awful because the slogan was only one word different to the one that the Germans used to chant at her and that still rung in her ears. And it's worth noting that in the 1980s, this didn't end at just chanting "Death to Arabs" at Palestinians. No, multiple Palestinians were attacked, and the Israeli press made some shocking discoveries in the Israeli military. They found squads of Israeli soldiers referring to themselves as the Mengele unit, who had extensive plans to mass murder Palestinians. So why is it that Ethan thinks that, someone who is a 19-year-old who supports the Houthis is a bad guy? He's an evil terrorist. But the same doesn't go for all Israelis. He might say, well, I don't like this excess. I don't actually support this kind of thing. Does every single Yemeni who rejects Israel, protests against it, and wants to take up arms against it, hold horrifying anti-Semitic views? No. There are many.
Again, this is why people criticize Ethan Klein for the way that he covers and talks about Israel. It's not that he gets on his show and he explicitly says, yeah, I think all the Palestinians should be genocided. He doesn't have to do that to unintentionally or intentionally support the genocide. What he needs to do is obfuscate, refuse to research, refuse to cover stories that make Israel look bad, which I can't even remember the last time he's covered a story that's made Israel look bad. Because he doesn't care about covering those stories, because he wants to pretend like both sides in a situation that is absolutely not both sides. Where one country has way more power, way more military power, way more financial power. I mean, in America, way more legislative power, in the fact that you can't even, if you are a legal resident, you will be deported for saying or organizing Palestinian protests because it hurts U.S. interests, which is what a court has just recently ruled.
Who just oppose the state of Israel because its treatment of Palestinians, and hold a strong disdain for America because of what it has helped to do to their country for decades. But luckily for Ethan, this was the 1980s. The chant "Death to Arabs," it's not so popular anymore. Just a couple of fringe Israelis, they were the guys chanting it and stuff, not everyone. Oh wait, hang on a second. One of its key proponents who used to chant it a lot, Itamar Ben-Gvir, is now Israel's Minister of National Security? Oh, it's okay though. He doesn't actually say death to Arabs anymore. Here's a video of him saying that he now says death to terrorists and encourages others because it is legal with a government stamp of approval.
The text reads, when you shout death to Arabs, instead you can say death to terrorists. Death to terrorists is legal with an official stamp. Like, dude, when a public official for Israel is informing the masses on how to dog whistle, how do you not look at this and think, maybe this is bad? And instead, what does Ethan Klein do? Obviously, when these Arab people, this time I could say Arab people said Sabra, they weren't talking about the hummus. They were dog whistling. Even though I won't be able to find any context showing that, and I made it up. And they were very clearly talking about hummus because they referenced hummus multiple times, but they were clearly not talking about hummus. Like, he will watch real dog whistles, totally ignore them. Just totally ignore them. And then invents them when he wants to invent them. So say death to terrorists, death to terrorists. Woo.
But when you consider that this man refers to all Palestinians as terrorists, including the mother of an autistic Palestinian who was murdered in cold blood by Israeli security forces, what is there to say? This guy has transformed Israel's prisons into even worse torture dungeons than they already were. I mean, there's decades of the horrifying treatment by Israeli prison officers of Palestinians.
Oh, yeah, don't forget Hasbara is a slur. Yeah. Yeah.
Only worsened in recent years. And Ethan doesn't see this as a sickness within Israeli society. He doesn't see it as indicative of the monstrous nature of their ideology, their movement. He thinks that there is still something redeemable about Israel. But what is there redeemable about this? Why is it that you would make a video this long condemning Hassan Piker for interviewing a 19-year-old, for showing Houthi music videos? Why is it that you would spend your time doing this when Israelis are out here doing these kind of things? And it does not end there. One of the other most common chants that you consistently hear from Israeli soldiers is "May your village burn." Here's a video of the Israeli soldiers chanting it before they go out and actually do that in Gaza.
This is the same as like when you see an Israeli Twitter account and you're like, oh, I wonder what this text says. And you press translate, like Google Translate on the thing, or like translate to English. And it's like the Hitler particles are off the chart. It's like, I think all Arabs should die. And I am especially happy that this child died. It's like, huh? Why did you say that? Why would you say? Most recently, did you guys see like the grandson of a Hamas operative? I'm like blanking. On the specific grandfather that I don't even think they're alive anymore. But like people were cheering and celebrating that this grandson,
I got a 62-year-old MAGA voter
who had the misfortune of being born as the grandson to a terrorist, people were cheering that he died.
Super's 534, wow.
And media was covering it as the elimination of a terrorist's grandson. Here's one such example. Grandson of Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya has been eliminated today in Gaza. Again, this is about a 3-year-old. And you don't want to see like the Hitler particles in the replies there. You didn't want to see that, by the way. Because it was a disturbing amount of people saying, yes, Israel will get them all. Israel will not stop until we get all of them. I've seen different accounts on whether the child in question was 2 or 3, but if you're at the point where you're cheering on a 3-year-old being executed by the state, you're probably the bad guy here. If you're excited about this, I'll even allow the people who are like, well, that's just the cost of war, whatever. I think you're a piece of shit and a coward, but that's besides the point. If you're cheering this on and you're like, yes, I love when children die. That's my favorite thing. I, a supporter of the Israeli government, love when they target and kill children. If that's you, you're a psychopath. Like, I don't know how to, if you see this child and you think that's a terrorist, you are a psychopath. You are actually a psychopath. You are celebrating the death of a child because you are a psychopath. And like, again, I think Ethan would have a lot more of a leg to stand on if he would be willing to, because he clearly wants to talk about Israel, but maybe on occasion he could talk about the things that he doesn't like that Israel does instead of just saying, I'm pro-Palestine. Someone's description of Ethan Klein as being the Tim Pool of pro-Palestine. You know how Tim Pool always refers to himself as like, I'm a liberal. I'm a classic liberal. Really, I'm a liberal. And that's just Ethan Klein for, I'm pro-Palestine, really. I'm never going to say or do anything that benefits Palestinians, but I'm pro-Palestine because I think sometimes Israel isn't perfect. It's like, then why don't you ever cover any of the things that Israel does that's objectively evil? Why don't you ever just talk about the dissenting opinions you have with Israelis that are cheering on the death of a fucking child? I'm going to try and silence and deplatform all pro-Palestinian voices, but trust me. Well, you don't understand, okay? It just so happens that all the people that he doesn't like are pro-Palestinian. Okay? They all did a lot of evil things that I'm not going to talk about because if I talked about them, I would have to start lying. But they just all, it's very weird that all of my enemies happen to be pro-Palestine. That's just weird. I don't know. That's just bizarre. But anyways, yeah. I'm going to plan a trip with my family to go to Israel to show you all how beautiful Israel is and how amazing it is. Yes, because I'm very pro-Palestine. Like, does he hear himself? Does he hear himself? Does he? Did you ever watch the video of a cop pulling over a black FBI agent waiting in his car, harassing him, and then finding his badge around his neck and skull? No, I haven't seen that. Baby, this house is on fire. This house is on fire.
This is
IDF agent stealing things that don't rightfully belong to them. Stealing the song just to make it worse. Excellent. Good. I hope that video got copyright striked.
is a man who claims that he thinks there is a genocide in the Gaza Strip, yet he spends his time talking about the Houthi slogans. He doesn't talk about the Israeli slogans. He doesn't talk about this as a sickness in Israeli society. I have said it over and over again. he sees Yemenis and Middle Easterners who are not Jewish from Israel as monstrous savages, whose ideologies are different, whose motivations are different to those of Israel, Jewish people, and Americans. He is a man who exceptionalizes the state of Israel in order to make himself feel better about his horrifying right-wing views, which justify the slaughter of scores and scores of colonized people across the entire region. But all of that's okay because, as Ethan puts it, they're the bad guys.
Israeli Rudy was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
Like Kamala,
the other one.
I could add it.
you're excusing people being burned.
Okay. Within the context, if you didn't already believe me that people were cheering on the death of that 2 or 3 year old because they happened to be the grandson of a terrorist, I'm like, how you have to believe me on that when you see that video of Hila saying, I mean, in reference to whether or not 2-year-old Palestinians are taught to hate and kill Israelis. Like, the people who have been totally propagandized by Israel, the people who believe everything that the state of Israel claims, they really genuinely think, like, first of all, it's an illness, but they genuinely think that all of these people are evil and we have to wipe them out.
Burned alive and kids being murdered. You're saying Israel does that on the
Yeah, we've heard of Tomb Raider. Now we have Ramallah Raider.
daily. Okay. Now I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. So are you denying that? So are you not denying that? So are you
Now look, I don't want to critique Ethan's personal relationship with his wife, Hila Klein, or the Raider of Ramallah, as she is sometimes known.
The best part about it
Your
is
subscription has been activated according to the PS4 Fuck Israel Fuck the Fictibrepiat called the Scrolls of the Elders of Zion since 1891, made by the Russian Sir family Denims.
the best part. The best part of the term, the Raider of Ramallah, is that, or like the Ramallah Raider, is that you can't even sue anyone for defamation on that because one, she admitted she was excited to go on a raid, and two, she admitted that the raid was in Ramallah. So it's just factually accurate.
Because it's ultimately unimportant for this video. But what is important is that it is one of the clear reasons that he deploys Orientalism to make himself feel better about the clear incongruency between his consistent lack of condemnation of his wife and her behavior and his constant condemnation of people like Rashid al-Haddad, who have never even served in a military, yet he sees them as terrorists. Now, as I'm sure that many of you know, Hila served in the IOF, the Israeli military. It's where she came by the nickname, the Raider of Ramallah, and she maintains that, she was just doing a desk job for a senior IOF terrorist, a senior figure within Israel's occupation. She was just doing a desk job for him. But then she got bored and one day wanted to go onto a raid in Ramallah, a space which Ethan refers to as a terrorist city. Just watch this clip.
Forced up, because what did you do? What was your role in the military?
At first, I was given a role that was like in an office somewhat close to my house in Tel Aviv. And it was kind of like going to a day job in an office. It happened right after there was some kind of a second war in, where was it, in Gaza?
I hope the Raider of Ramallah follows the Kleins for the rest of time. Me too. Me too. That and the fucking 6-hour N-word compilation. I'm going to raise the number every time I say it, okay? Can you believe Ethan Klein saw this and was like, I need her face on my arm forever?
There was some sort of a small war.
Perfect.
When I was there, and so my job was to, like, when they send officers or like people to go serve, I had to like logistically help with like their hotel or a room, things like that. But it was all on the computer. It just felt like some computer thing.
Right. Okay. So secretary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was super boring, and I really hated it because it was just like I had to take a bus super early, go there, spend the whole day, go back home. I hated it. So I tried to change my role. And it was something like you can apply for it, and it's a form that you fill out, and then they're going to give you something else completely random.
Different
you have
position,
no idea.
different post.
Yeah.
Also, this is the one that gets me. What do you mean terrorist city? A city made of terrorists? A city for terrorists? A city by terrorists, for terrorists, of terrorists.
So I decided to do that, and if I don't like the second one, then I'll just find a way to get out of the army.
It was that bad?
Yeah, I hated everything about it. Didn't want to do it. Because if you're doing something that it felt like I wasn't doing anything, I was just wasting my life.
She was wasting her life, which luckily she found her calling, making toddler core clothing. Oh God, dude. Oh God.
Yeah.
It could get really frustrating. I don't know.
Right.
And you got to do it for 2 years.
Right.
So I filled out that form and I tried it, and then I somehow ended up in a better place that I liked a lot more. Before it was a daily thing where you go back home every day, and the new one was in a way that was a base that was far from my house. So you go there for the whole week and then you come back for the weekend.
So you preferred that? Were you gone for a whole week?
I did.
Why?
It was kind of like just more of an adventure, more of a different experience that I preferred than to just go to a boring job, sit on the computer and go back home at the end of every day. I don't know.
Were you doing secretary work there?
So yeah, I was the secretary of the head of the. There's like I don't know the terms in English from the army.
Who's that officer?
So I was in Dukhifat, which is like a brigade, I guess, that's in charge of the area of Ramallah, and that brigade has like a main officer. So I was his secretary.
Okay, so you were right below the big boy. Cool.
So it was nice. It was interesting. It was more demanding in a way, but also kind of more rewarding because
you told me once you went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city.
Yeah.
That was kind of a crazy story.
Yeah. So my officers and like the soldiers in that brigade, they would go every night on a raid in Ramallah to arrest terrorists, and so I always saw them preparing for it and leaving, and then I would stay in the base. So one time I wanted to go with them just to experience it.
Why, you just were all of a sudden had an urge to go with them?
I just wanted to see what it's like. I wanted to see it.
And there you have it. She did this because she was bored. So why doesn't Ethan condemn her as an evil terrorist? Why doesn't he think that she should be destroyed along with members of the Houthis? What is the difference between her and a Yemeni person who hasn't even fought against another country? Well, let's actually just have a look at more of what these two have to say.
To serve like everybody else in the country. I mean, it's a very selfish move to decide, okay, I'm not going to do it, but everybody else will.
Like Israel as a place, the mentality of growing up there, like everybody feels an obligation to protect, to serve, to nurture this place that feels like the only place in the world where they can live and be Jewish and not be like discriminated against.
I mean, when you're growing up with constant terror attacks, the army is a necessity.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if people think that's a controversial statement. That is the reality of Israel. And so for one person to decide I'm not going to do it is a very selfish decision, because meanwhile you're not doing it, everybody else is doing it and putting their life on hold. Very important years of your personal.
It's selfish to not want to participate in the apartheid state. Personally, I would use the word unbelievably brave and selfless, but hey, man.
Personal development, you're putting it on hold to go do this, and it helps nothing with your career afterwards. You finish it, then you start
you don't even need
actual
to defend
life.
yourself. It's just normal.
And I just want to note something before I analyze this clip here. Lying for Ethan and Hila is a very dangerous game, because you have published the vast majority of your life on the internet for well over a decade now. I've been watching you since I was 14, really. And what you said, first of all, was that, Hila didn't actually want to serve in the IOF, that, she was kind of forced to. But I think what's becoming clearer is that both of you are letting the mask slip more and more, because in that original clip, you claimed, oh, it was mandatory and all of these things. But now Ethan is saying that it is a necessity, and Hila is saying that people who don't serve are shameful. That's not really congruent with the idea that you didn't want to serve, is it now? And
Which is why I made the criticism that I made of Hila serving. And why I said, you can't just look at her service and say, oh, well, it was mandatory. No, dude, you're starting to sound like you're entering Nuremberg territory when the woman you're claiming she just had to serve is on record saying it was so boring and I was so excited to go raid Ramallah, terrorist city Ramallah, and if I didn't get a better job, I was going to find a way to get out of it. Also, it's selfish to not serve. Like, dog! No, dude, no. And here's the thing. I've said this a million times, and anytime I talk about this topic, I'm going to say it again. No one would have a problem with Hila. And in fact, I think a lot of people would praise Hila, if and as well as any other IDF member who, upon their service or upon entering the IDF, or maybe during their birthright trip, they saw the atrocities committed by Israel, and that's what it took for them to recognize that their state isn't the most moral state. They don't have the most moral army. You're not automatically evil and unsavable and a Nazi because you served in the IDF, because you were born and from the cradle you were told that all these Arabs around you want to kill you and they're all terrorists and we need the Iron Dome and we need all these walls and we need to bomb these people. We have to do this. And then you serve and you're like, guys, I don't know that like killing these unarmed children is helping. I don't think that this is helping. Do you know what type of courage it takes you to see atrocities happening by a state that you're supposed to love, that you want to love, that you want to believe is moral, and then having to disconnect with reality, or with the reality you want to believe in, and then have everyone around you say like, what? What are you, a token Jew? Why are you siding with the terrorists? Do you know how hard that is to break away? Like, that takes a lot. That takes a lot. And that's why the people who have been on birthright and the people who've served in the IDF, who now take the time to speak on the apartheid state and to speak on the genocide, the Israelis who currently do tours to show the settlements, for example, who served in the IDF, who realized during service, oh, I don't want to be a part of this apartheid state. There's a reason that those people are regarded as really brave and why we try and uplift those people. Right? Breaking the silence? Yeah, I mean, Simone Zimmerman's a very good example, right? So no one would hate Hila, or no one would disagree with her or think she's a terrible person if she was able to have the real courage of saying, yeah, the Israeli government does a lot of fucked up shit. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't look back fondly on my service. I did it because I thought I had to, and it was dark time. I mean, that's currently how American troops are. There are so many people that serve in the US military, and after their service, they're like, dude, America kind of sucks, actually. Actually, why the fuck were we stationed somewhere else in the world? Our freedoms are not there. That's not where I don't understand how our freedom got over there. Like, what is this? Hila lied about her role and position in the IDF. Says she was first given a desk job and then placed with a brigade because she thought it was too boring. Eventually joined the brigade, specifically the Dishifa battalion. Video gives you an idea of what the battalions are like. I saw that there is like the iconic photo of her wearing the battalion outfit, but like I don't know that it was that she was borrowing someone else's outfit or something. I didn't follow the story enough because I think what she says is bad enough on its own. Right? So whether or not she actually had a desk job or not, it matters less for me, because I feel like it's obvious that she wants to hold water for Israel, and she wants to push the narrative that Israel isn't doing a genocide and that Israel doesn't do war crimes, and it's actually just these evil terrorists. And that's good enough for me. It doesn't really matter whether or not she served the desk job.
Ethan and Hila are claiming here that the IOF is a necessity because of the really serious threats that Israel faces, terror every single day. But what are these threats? Where do they come from? Is there any context to them? Or are they just the result of the barbarous anti-Semitism that Jewish people face every single day in the Middle East? Well, of course they're not. And it's so ridiculous for Ethan to sit there and claim that he is pro-Palestine, because once again, we can pick apart another part of his ideology. So Ethan says in the content nuke that he thinks Israeli settlers in the West Bank are colonial settlers.
condemned Netanyahu as a war criminal. They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal. Called the West Bank settlements an abomination. Settlers in the West Bank are religious zealots. They're monsters. They're genocidal. I've even said the West Bank settlers are valid military targets. When you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff, like that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm not really sure that he knows what this means, but anyway, he thinks they're valid military targets. But he doesn't have a problem with his wife who served in that area, who raided terrorist cities. He has no problem with that. He said just a few days ago that he is proud of what his wife did.
And like, and I mean, to
know,
me,
it's like,
that's shameful and it's embarrassing. Hila served her country. She did her civic duty. And I think that's a good thing that, you know, regardless, like just in general. Right?
But at the same time, he's against the occupation. He's against the extremities of Israeli society. What does he think Israeli soldiers do in the West Bank? They're not just having fun or protecting Israel. They are maintaining Israel's colonial regime in the West Bank. They are there so as to ensure that the Israeli occupation does not face any form of serious resistance. She was arresting people, most likely for opposing it. Who knows whether that was via armed resistance or peaceful means? I mean, Israel doesn't make a distinction. It doesn't even offer people trial before it begins its horrifying torture of them. I mean, Ethan Klein is a guy who claims that he thinks that there is a genocide going on in Gaza, yet simultaneously thinks that it is shameful not to serve in the Israeli military, that it is some kind of necessity. What does this guy think that actually talking about Palestine and Israel on the internet is securing him? Every single time he opens his mouth, he puts his foot in it because he has no understanding. He has no coherent position.
Every time he opens his mouth, he puts his foot in it. That kind of eats, I'm not going to lie. Oh, God. Denims, did you see the iDubbbz announcement? Yes! Oh, my God, wait. I'm sorry. Maybe some of you haven't seen it. One's in chat if you saw the iDubbbz announcement. Twos of you haven't. Well, well, well.
What we do here is go back.
First content cop in like how long? 5 years or something? I don't know how long. I'm hyped, dude. I'm hyped. I'm hype as shit, dude. I'm so hyped. A reformed content cop? Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Oh, it's gonna be so good, dude. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be on April 16th, Wednesday. It's coming out on Wednesday. The same day that the Baldur's Gate patch 8 is coming out, by the way. Do you think it's about Ethan? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a 50-50. I like the allure of not knowing. I like the allure of not knowing. I think it's exciting. So yeah, we'll do listen, we'll do a special
It was really
stream.
funny seeing comments like, if this is against Ethan, this is the last straw for me with iDubbbz. Like, good riddance.
Oh God. I doubt it'll be about Ethan with Lena and AB's song Creator Clash. Yeah. Cause like if it is about him, I feel like Ethan will throw a fucking fit and be like and like scream at Lena to fucking drop out. Cause you know, he's a fucking crazy person who needs to have full control over his employees. It could be about anything. We have so many new types of dudes, or sorry, new types of chuds. Yeah, I mean, like, There's so many people that are worth doing content cops on at this point. So I'm excited. So we'll do a special stream on Wednesday. Okay, it might be a longer stream. I'm hype. I'm excited. We'll do like a Gamba Wednesday morning. We'll do a Wednesday morning Gamba on who we think it's about. What is Content Cop, chat? Content Cop is it's a series that Ian used to do back when he was only known as iDubbbz, way back in the day. And it was like, I think it was one of the I guess it's all archived now. I think. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But it was a I think one of the things that he was most well known for, where he would basically cover people that he felt like didn't get enough coverage and felt like, you know, should be called out for that. So I think he's done one. I didn't ever really get, I was a Tumblr girly, okay? That's the truth. While you were watching the Content Cop, I was reading Homestuck. Anyways, but I know he's done one on like Jake Paul. I know he's done one on like Leafy. I know he's done one on Keemstar. I'm sure he's done one on a lot of other people as well, but people really liked it because, you know, there's a lot of annoying, shitty people on the internet and they deserve to be called out for their shitty, annoying behavior. So it's what Content Nuke ripped off of. I do know that Ethan has a history of stealing other people's ideas. I will say, Chad, someone showed me that someone showed me this crazy Oliver Tree video that I had never ever seen. This is like let me see if I can find it. This one. Have you guys seen this? Have you guys seen this? This is one of the meanest things I've ever seen. This is meaner than anything I could say. This is meaner than anything Bad and Banana could say.
Better than any of your videos, yeah, that's for sure. I mean, wait, what is the biggest YouTube video you ever dropped? Was it Vape Nation?
Yeah.
Back when you were like still kind of culturally relevant.
Yeah.
Well, it was cool because you used to make stuff, and now you just critique stuff, and there's a big difference between people like me and people like you.
Yeah.
What happened? I think everyone that's your fan wants to know, where did it all go wrong?
I think people are pretty happy.
I don't think so. I think a lot of people, I mean, if you look at the cultural relevance and contributions, I mean, you were contributing, and now you're just kind of
here's
like
where it is. Yeah. Well, here's where it is.
Was it the money, or was it the fame? Funny if you just answered the questions.
What do you want me to say? What do you want
I want
me to
you
say?
to tell me why you stopped making things.
Oh, yeah, so, okay, well, first of all, let me remind you, this is my fucking show.
Yeah, well, it sucks.
I'm sure it's a bit, yeah, but like that would hurt my feelings as a bit. That would hurt my feelings even as a bit, dude. That would kind of sting even if I knew it was a joke. I'd be like, ugh. No, it wasn't a bit. I remember this, LOL. I can't speak on whether it is or isn't, but regardless.
This is the quality content we needed and deserved.
position. He just condemns the excesses of Israel without ever confronting what he actually supports. And I mean, he claims that Israel is under threat. He does it in the content nuke as well. He claims, oh, you know, Israel's under these threats. It has been since it was established. But where do these threats come from? I mean, Hezbollah, for example, what is the actual context of it? Well, Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982. Hezbollah largely came from that. It gained legitimacy through fighting against Israel, through driving them out in 2000, driving them out in 2006. It became popular. Lebanese people liked it because it stood up to Israel. And by the way, the crimes that Israel has committed against the Lebanese people are truly unbelievable. Since the ceasefire came into effect, who is the one?
By the way, Denims, that was not a bit. I've been watching Ethan Klein since Vape Nation. I've seen multiple interviews with these two, and I'm telling you that was not a bit.
On terrorizing the people of Lebanon? Who is the one consistently carrying out bombardments during a ceasefire? It is absolutely obscene that this man sits here and tries to overplay the threats that Israel faces that come from its settler colonial nature. And the same goes for the terror attacks. Look, innocent civilians being killed is not a good thing, but Ethan claims that he opposes colonial settlers. He claims that he thinks there is a genocide. He says all of these things, but he lets his wife go on about how there are terror attacks every day. Does he not see that since the inception of the Zionist project in the early 20th century, Palestinians realized that they had to resist against what the Zionists were doing? They knew that the Zionists wanted to build a state that did not involve the Palestinians, where the Zionist project would be dominant over them. And so Palestinians have resisted ever since that date. And Ethan even seems to say that he thinks settlers in the West Bank are valid targets, but he doesn't carry that same energy for people who settle outside the Gaza Strip, who live on the lands of the people who were expelled to Gaza in 1948 during the Nakba. He doesn't care about that, you know, that doesn't matter. He's more interested in trying to talk about the Mizrahi Jewish people brought over to Israel after the expulsion of the Palestinians, rather than talking about the suffering of the Palestinians and actually contextualizing why they might resist. He would rather resort to, as he did with the Houthis and any other group, claiming that they are some kind of violent anti-Semitic savages. For Ethan, militant groups in the Middle East are irrational savages who carry out violence against Israel and America because of their horrifying ideologies. But people like Hila, who serve in the Israeli military, an entity who, as I have said over and over again, engages in all of the crimes which Ethan allegedly so hates, he thinks that that is a necessity. He thinks that she is some kind of rational person. But what is rational about defending the colonization of an indigenous people's land? He says that he thinks Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, but he thinks it's necessary for Israeli soldiers to serve in it, and he thereby condemns the tiny amount of Israelis with an actual conscience who don't serve and go to prison for a few months. People like Tal Mitnick, who I've actually spoken to, who I said over and over again, oh, it's a brave thing what you're doing. And he said, nah, laughing my ass off, it's the bare minimum. Because the truth is that how can you sit there and say, oh, I think there's a genocide going on. I think that Netanyahu's a war criminal, but not say, actually, it's wrong to help and aid and abet that. Hila served in the Israeli military on the back end of the Second Intifada, a period which is often portrayed as explosive Palestinian violence, where poor Israeli civilians were targeted for no reason. But it, of course, has context. It came after a major provocation by Ariel Sharon, and it also led to the murder of 4 times as many Palestinians. They also received horrifying collective punishment. The Jenin refugee camp was leveled. I mean, look at this photo. There were mass curfews, schools closed, people arrested, beaten, homes taken over by Israeli soldiers, and massive torture of Palestinians. How dare you sit there and make a distinction between your wife, who had no problem with serving in an army that did those things, and by the way, also took huge amounts of human shields. Here are articles about it. How dare you sit there and somehow try and make that acceptable, something that you say you are proud of. You may say that your wife is just a secretary, but Israel's occupation of the West Bank, its torturous regime, its brutalization and murder of innocent...
And like, how can you say that you do enough to fight against Israel's apartheid when you're saying, yeah, it's good to serve, everyone go serve, Israelis should be proud to serve? It's like, Huh? What? Okay, I guess. I don't see how these two worldviews can exist in the same universe, but okay. Ethan's just a bad guy. Safe to assume he's not a bit considering his recent behavior. I mean, I don't think I still, to this day, still don't think he's a bad guy. I think he feels like he's being shoved into a corner, one that I think he put himself into, and he feels like he's being wrongfully attacked, even though it's not wrongfully attacked. And he doesn't handle criticism well. Also, thanks, like, Lil Squiddles, and thank you, Green Bay Bucks. I think he's, okay, maybe this is like a little mean. I think he's too stupid to be evil. That's my opinion, genuinely. You guys can disagree, that's fine. But I genuinely do think that it's driven more by stupidity and ego than it is by, like, anything else. Why do you think AB and Olivia withstand his behavior? Because they are coping. They're coping that he'll stop talking about Israel and Hassan. You don't have to be smart to be evil. LMAO, what the fuck? No, I'm putting people into two distinct categories. One is being evil because you know what you're doing fully and you have no remorse about it. And two is you're engaging in bad behavior and causing harm and making the world worse, but not because you're aware of what you're, not because you're like cognitive of every single thing that you're doing, right? Obviously, innately to being stupid here in this context is doing evil shit, but there's a difference between doing the evil shit because you enjoy doing evil shit and doing the evil shit because you're too dumb to realize that what you're doing is bad. I'm talking about intention here, not about consequence. Obviously, we all agree that the consequences are bad, duh. It's pretty clear you can do evil things through recklessness and stupidity versus being truly evil. Both are very bad, but they're also on different levels. They're just different, right? You're saying this after seeing the Boston bombing clip? Yeah. That is peak stupid. That's, oh, this is going to be a funny joke. This is going to land so well. And then making the craziest joke that you can. What was said in there is like vile, disgusting shit that I never want. I mean, it was such a disgusting clip. I've played it a total of once and I refuse to play it ever again on my stream. Because it's so vile. Bro, what? He hates you. He wants you canceled. He wants your livelihood taken from you. He hates you. Stop being charitable for people who want to actively destroy you. Liberal shit. And for today, the Woke Up of the Day award goes to please don't get it twisted. Let me be clear. You are being banned for being annoying. There are plenty of people who are disagreeing with me right now and are saying you're wrong, but they're just not doing it in an annoying way. So yeah. Sorry, I can't. You guys reflect on me, so you guys have to be funny. So people get tricked into thinking that maybe I'm funny. But if I have annoying people in here, people will start thinking I'm annoying, which is bad. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay? That can't happen. You can actually be, as long as you're funny, you can be very rude in this chat. Because at least you're funny. Okay? I'm down for that. I'm down. Growing up is realizing Ethan was never funny. Feel strong, man. You're so right. I'm just talking about intention. Is the shit that he says on his show evil? Fuck yeah. Is the shit that he does evil? Fuck yeah. He engages in, I think, very deplorable behavior. And I think he is going insane. Genuinely, I think he's going insane. And I think he's treated me and a lot of other people with a malice that, like, I can't understand. Right? Like, I can't understand how someone could act with such malicious intent. But it's driven by stupidity. He didn't know Benjamin Netanyahu's name was Benjamin. He's driven first by stupidity, and then he does evil shit because of his stupidity. That's all I'm saying, which is objectively correct in my opinion. I don't know if you care about Asman. He just said he's the most pro-woman streamer. Thoughts, LMAO? Like, as in he goons the hardest to women? That I believe. I've seen his Twitter likes.
Palestinians would not be possible without those desk secretaries who make the cogs go round. This man's politics are right-wing and disgusting, and he makes himself feel better about them by just deploying Orientalism, by portraying Israel, America as enlightened countries who don't engage in misogyny, slavery, bigotry against other people, who aren't irrational, who aren't hateful. But of course, he is unwilling to confront the fact that these are all charges which should be leveled against Israel and America, who have perpetrated them on far grander scales than any group he hates. Now let's move on to some clips of Ethan spreading some of the most despicable Zionist talking points that have been utilized to perpetrate Israel's horrifying crimes in the Gaza Strip.
When civilians fucking get murdered in Gaza, that's a dub for Hamas because it raises it creates more pressure on Israel from the outside forces. He's got more people talking, more people outraged. So it's both. It is both.
Put your shirt down, please.
It is both. Israel is blowing up buildings and killing a ton of innocent people. But people who pretend that Hamas is anything but a fucking barbaric terrorist group that intentionally kills.
Listen, Chad, I'm just happy that, like, I think he's finally not sick anymore, so he isn't sniffling in between every single word. Because it was bad when it was between every single word. I'm just happy that he's less sick now.
Its own people for political gain is lying to themselves, dude. Holy shit. They literally put fucking...
Is that tattoo, Hila? Wait, are there people who don't know that he got a tattoo of his wife? On his arm? Wait, did you? Oh my goodness, there's people who don't know. Oh. No. Yes, he got a tattoo of his wife on his arm. Here it is, if you haven't. Dude, why? Dude, why? Oh my god, dude. The worst part about it is that the artist kind of gave her cone head a little bit. I didn't notice it until someone I know who has a lot of tattoos mentioned it. And they were like, dude, the artist gave her cone head. And I was like, no way, you're right. You're right, he did. Here's the original. Or like, here's the reference photo. And he kind of coned her the fuck up. He kind of gave her egg a little. But also, man, does it look like a memorial tattoo. Oh my God, does it look like a memorial? It looks like a tattoo you'd get of your dead wife. It just, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is about it that makes it look like a memorial tattoo. But that's
In
exactly.
loving memory. Okay. Don't judge him immortalizing his love. Oh, she's not dead? Oh. Oh, well, that's just dumb then.
The worst part about it is like that she didn't know the writing above and below the tattoo. The greatest thing a man can do for his children is to love their mother. She is kind of giving Spoon a little bit, but why emphasize the dark circles? I don't get it. That you just don't understand how tattoos work. Okay, if you understood how tattoos work, you would understand that's fine. It's actually okay for that. People have tried to say like it's gonna fade. It's gonna fade and it's gonna look different. But the thing is, fading is relative, as in the darkest areas will fade relative to the other darkest areas. If you take this whole thing and you lighten it, guess what? The darkest area on her face, which is under her eyes, is still going to look like the darkest area. But hey, maybe he used some special fading ink and just wanted to give her a different look initially. And yeah. This is so pre-divorce. Dude, between this and like the Instagram stories of like the like her sleeping next to the dog and then him sleeping next to the dog. It's like, this is giving divorce. It's really, but the worst part about all of it was she didn't know. And when he revealed it, she wasn't there in the show. She wasn't there in the studio. And when they asked Ethan what she thought of it, he said, "Don't worry, she'll like it in a few weeks." And then she didn't show up in the studio for like a week.
Centers under hospitals. That's not even debated. They were keeping some of the hostages in hospitals too. It seems like a lot of them ran through.
Also, sorry, the other thing I was going to say, people who have like sleeve tattoos, I feel like you can get away with having some like insane tattoo of your wife because you have so many tattoos that it's going to be one more tattoo on your arm. When your arm is naked except for this giant fucking tattoo of your wife's face. Bold. It's bold. It's a bold decision. It's bold, dude. Oh.
Through hospitals. That's it. I mean, it's just logical, right?
Now, for someone who is self-proclaimed to be against the genocide in the Gaza Strip and also pro-Palestinian, to hear a talking point like this spread is truly disgusting. You cannot reconcile these two things because all of the evidence points to the fact that Israel has lied. It has been unable to support outrageous claims that it made, such as the claim that there was a terror base and command center under the Al-Shifa hospital that was used to raid it, to make patients there suffer. And I mean, babies literally died in their incubators because they had to be left. They rotted and decomposed because of talking points like this. Israel has struck and targeted hospitals over and over again because of talking points like this. It has arrested Palestinian doctors, tortured them to death, perhaps even sexually, like Adnan al-Bursh. But for pro-Palestinian anti-genocide Ethan Klein, there's no debate about it. But that's just not true. Just a few months ago, one of the International Criminal Court's lead prosecutors, Andrew Cayley, noted claims of Hamas in hospitals had been grossly exaggerated. This is a man who was appointed by the UK's most racist Home Secretary in its recent history, Suella Braverman, a woman who is unequivocally pro-Israel, and he is saying this. He is saying that it is likely Israel has grossly exaggerated its claims. Then you have Forensic Architecture, who highlighted that Israel lied at the International Court of Justice about a militant fighting inside hospital boundaries. They debunked it clearly. People do not want to talk about this. And then let's move on to what Craig Mohiba said. As he noted, the mere presence of armed forces of members of the enemy in populated civilian areas does not constitute the use of human shields. Indeed, Israel should carefully consider the implications of its repeated claims that it does, given that it maintains its military headquarters in a busy section of Tel Aviv. Ethan has spread one of the most deadly Zionist lies. It is truly despicable. For this man to try and sit there and claim that he is pro-Palestine is utterly obscene. And it's provable that the Israeli military just make up numbers.
And I think that's one of the more offensive things about him trying to sue Noah Samson. Because the thing is, what Noah Samson was arguing is, hey, you claim you're pro-Palestine, you claim you care about these things, you claim you want to criticize Israel, but functionally what you end up doing is just defending Israel's actions time and time and time and time again. And when you do that, you are giving them you are giving the state of Israel exactly what it wants. It wants people to go out there and defend them so that they can continue their genocide. So they can continue doing this. Like everything that you're saying just helps them continue their genocide. But Ethan Klein is going after Noah because he knows that that's going to be such a bitch to have to argue in court. Do you know how much work you're going to have to put in to argue this in court? Do you know how much time you're going to have to spend arguing all of these details in court, talking about whether or not Gallant said this, or whether or not Ben-Gvir said this, or whether or not this building actually did get collapsed because of Israel, or whether or not this was corrected, or whether or not there is a link between this narrative and this talking point that Israel pushes, and whether or not Ethan Klein said this, and whether or not, it will be such a convoluted fucking case that I personally wouldn't judge Noah for not wanting to have to deal with that lawsuit and for issuing whatever retraction that he would need to. But it's like Ethan is just abusing the legal system. He knows he has more money, so he knows that type of lawsuit would be very expensive and would take years, and that's why he's going after him, right? But functionally, this is this is the gist, or like the core of what Noah's talking about. I don't think Noah will back down. I think he really wants to fight it in court, and he doesn't want to cave. But I also understand that I don't judge someone for not wanting to be in a multi-year defamation lawsuit against a millionaire, right? Ethan doesn't do research. Shocked, I tell you. Yeah. Forensic architecture needs more praise to their type of work and analysis. Oh, yeah. 100% agree.
When it comes to claims about terrorists or militants, you had this Haaretz article which stated that of 200 people who
forget what it's called in California, you can file a measure to get defamation cases dropped because they're being used to target and silence normal people. What you're talking about is anti-slap motions, which Ethan actually failed with regard to his case with Ryan Kavanaugh. And I think it's hard to say when it's two public figures. You will have to see how it plays out. I think a bigger question will be whether or not there were any explicit falsehoods in that video. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Do you think Ethan's other threats against people on the snark subreddits where Ethan talks about future employment could be used by Noah to demonstrate the motion as a slap suit? I think way more likely is that he could try to... Sorry, I don't think Noah could bring up other people I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, so this is just speculation on my part, based on my understanding, based on the little that I've read on defamation suits in LA or in California. But more relevant would be the smear campaign stream where Ethan Klein insinuated that Noah was a rapist. That potentially that could have negative consequences for Ethan, because it's showing that there's like malice on Ethan's part and that he just wants to go after this guy. He what? Yeah, the short version of it is that like I think it was Dan. I could be mistaken. Maybe it was someone else, but I think it was Dan that said like, no, I wouldn't be so harsh on, or I wouldn't talk about rape denials this way when it's coming from you. And Ethan says something like, yeah, watch out, Noah, because we're going to expose you. And it's heavily insinuating. Like if you only saw that clip and you didn't see anything else or watch all of the coverage the next day, it's Ethan Klein's show. He has a responsibility to be responsible, and he has a responsibility to correct that and say, okay, whoa, he's not a rapist, but he has engaged in X behavior or whatever, right? Like that's, you are insinuating that this person is worse than they are. Like that is not a good look in a court of law. It's just, it shows that you have a personal vendetta against this person, right? Would it be enough? I don't fucking know. I don't spend all my time reading the precedent on defamation cases. What I will say, though, is that it's very telling that he hasn't sued me for defamation, because I didn't defame him. He made it up. Any day now, he's going to do it. Any day now, he's going to issue that lawsuit, right? For sure. Any day now, he's going to issue that lawsuit, right, guys? Any day. I promise you guys, considering the shit that he said about me, he would love to sue me. He would love. And I love that people are like, I can't wait for Ethan to take all of your money. It's like, dude, if I wasn't so fucking lazy, I would be looking into it myself. I'd be looking into trying to make that trial real myself. But anywho, I want to finish this video because this is a really good video that breaks down how pro-Israel propaganda works.
Crossed an arbitrary line invented by Israel, which they executed. Less than 10% of them had any link to Hamas. Or you have this article from the BBC about Israel's bombardment of Lebanon, where Israel made the claim, oh, we were bombing a Hezbollah command center. We were only targeting militants. We were eliminating Hezbollah commanders. But of the 73 people killed, only 68 of which could be verified, likely because they were torn to shreds and their families will never even get to bury them. Only 6 of them had links to Hezbollah's military wing. None of them held a senior rank. The other 62 of them were civilians, 23 children, and they were killed. And Israel lied, and people like Ethan believe it, and they show it to their audience of millions of people. Tell them these kind of lies that are currently killing people in the Middle East. These are the claims which undergird Israel's genocide. This is the way that the consent is manufactured, which makes Israel's slaughter possible. This is why people are so anti-Israel, America, and the media in our countries. And as I have said over and over again, to the point where it is getting tired, for someone who claims to be pro-Palestine and anti-genocide to say these things is despicable, but it still shows you his Orientalism, this distinction in the way that the other fights. They are savages who lie, who want their own civilians killed, not like Israel. No, Israel's a moral nation. His wife was in their army, you know, it's something that he's proud of. And I'd like to end with a very short segment about the recent anti-Hamas protests in Gaza that Ethan, like many other liberals who purport to be pro-Palestine but in reality are Zionists, has not been able to get over. This man has been so excited about them. He's found a new way to condemn Hassan, to say, oh, he's more pro-Hamas than me. Oh, I think that these
condemn Hassan
are the only way to end Israel's genocide, and they're going to be brilliant. But what I would like to say is, look, no one who knows anything about Palestine should be surprised that there is anti-Hamas sentiment in Gaza. Life is very difficult in the Gaza Strip. During times like this, people turn against their government. And so I wouldn't actually have a problem with Ethan covering them if he hadn't used them as yet another way to excuse Israel's genocide. Because Ethan has posted a plethora of stories about this, but I just want you to watch this very short clip where Ethan effectively says that these are the only means to end Israel's genocide.
The reason you don't see this, and I mean, Israel's forced them into a point of desperation where, like, they're willing to risk their lives, but, like, protesting against Hamas publicly is a grim, it's a grim outlook. That is not something you want to do. Hamas, just read their charter, listen to what they say. They're Islamic, they're violent, and, you know, protesters, and it's known that protesters, people that there are who dissent against Hamas, get scooped up, get punished, disappear.
Now, if at this point you don't believe that Ethan is Orientalist,
Islamic is like, it should ring alarm bells in your brain, dude. Like, you should you should be concerned when you hear people say they're Islamic. It's like, Ethan's entire thought process is finding a way to link it back to stupid, sexy Hassan. Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, my fucking God. What's wrong with being Islamic? What the fuck? I didn't say anything about that. Try again, chatter.
and creates a distinction between them
You're right,
and
Denim Ethan is just stupid. Yeah, that's what yes. Everything else happens because of the stupidity.
us. He literally refers to one of the reasons for Hamas being so dangerous as them being Islamic. I think if I were to say that Israel is the way it is because it is Jewish, he would make videos about me calling me an anti-Semite. It is completely insane that he would say this, especially when you consider that Israel's violence against
Oh, I think the chatter was talking about Ethan. Oh, sorry. My apologies, chatter. Sorry about that. I misunderstood.
violent protesters is off the charts.
Ethan treats Hassan like Timmy Turner's dad treats Dinkelberg.
During the First Intifada, a mass uprising that was largely non-violent, Israel deployed some of the most horrifying torture that you could possibly imagine. And you can read about how horrifying this torture was in texts such as on Gaza Beach. Yitzhak Rabin, someone who is considered one of the most peace-loving Israeli prime ministers, issued an order to break the bones of non-violent protesters. And this isn't something that went away. Israel's response to the Great March of Return, a march that initially was not supported by Hamas, although later they didn't come out against it, but was largely non-violent, Israel responded by shooting Palestinians. Look at this one, where an Israeli sniper brags about maiming 42 Palestinians in one day. These were horrifying, traumatic injuries that led to people losing their legs and being unable to walk. But Ethan would never dare to say that Israel is an innately violent country, that it is this way because it is Jewish. No, because that's not acceptable. But when it comes to Muslims and people from the Middle East, he sees them as different. He sees the way they behave as unacceptable because of where they come from and because of the fact that they challenge the dominance of the West and Israel.
I mean, listen, I feel like this is a force that's going to help end the war, not fucking keeping hostages and underground and like sending, just continuing to provoke Israel to attack them.
And the core problem with this is that the Israeli government doesn't care about the hostages. The Israeli government doesn't care about Hamas. Just a few days ago, Benjamin Netanyahu stated that voluntary migration was the plan, that they would control the Gaza Strip. That's it. They're not hiding it. It's a plan. Anyone can discuss it with them.
Also, Islamic is an adjective that should be used for inanimate concepts like art, building, text, not people. Yeah. You would describe the people as Muslim.
They are openly planning to ethnically cleanse 2 million people. Why are you obsessing over these protests? They are not going to save the Palestinians. They are not going to end the suffering. The genocide that you allegedly condemn, the thing that you have spread the propaganda that has enabled, Israel is just ramping up the destruction. It's why they blew up the Turkish cancer hospital, the only cancer hospital in the Gaza Strip. No one's going to be getting any cancer treatment there anymore. Where are they going to have to go? Other countries. They won't come back. Gaza is gone to the Zionists, and anyone who is going, well, if Hamas released the hostages, it would save everything, is wrong. The only answer to this situation is massive, massive pressure on Israel. But that's not what Ethan wants. Ethan is planning on taking a trip to Israel to show you its real side. But what real side is there to Israel when it is a country that is openly planning to perpetrate the greatest crime of the 21st century? You can say, oh, I don't like Netanyahu, I don't like this, I don't like that. It won't change anything. The Israeli military that you are proud of your wife serving in is going to expel millions of Palestinians from Gaza. Then it will turn on the West Bank. Then it will turn on Palestinians inside Israel proper. And you want to go and show your supporters this wonderful side to it. It is one of the most obscene and shocking things that has come out of Ethan Klein's mouth over the last year and a half. Because it is not only that as he goes, Israel will be implementing its plan to expel 2 million people, it is also that what he loves and enjoys about Israel is inextricably linked from the dispossession, marginalization, and extermination of the Palestinian people historically, the Nakba, the consistent displacement of Palestinians. But it is also linked to the fact that only a few hundred miles away, if even that, in the West Bank, Palestinians will be being expelled. Communities will be being wiped away. There will be violent pogroms against Palestinians. And Ethan is
And it's so infuriating because, like, he makes this all out to be about Hamas. And when talking about protests in Palestine, or sorry, in Gaza about Hamas, he doesn't mention the fact that Palestinians in the West Bank are being subjected to mistreatment by IDF members, by settlements, by settlers, that there are strikes that happen in the West Bank that kill Palestinians that have nothing to do with Hamas. Instead, what does he say? If they would just kick out all the Hamas members, this would all stop. This would all stop. This would all stop. It's like, no, it wouldn't. Fuck you. And you know it wouldn't.
Just going to ignore it. He will not care because he wants to show you the real side. But the two are inextricably linked. So Ethan Klein is a confused Zionist who wishes to disavow the most extreme and unacceptable aspect of Israel's genocidal violence against Palestinians. But he cannot abandon his Zionism. He is unwilling to see that Hamas, far from being the sickness, is but a symptom of Israeli settler colonialism, the true sickness that plagues Palestine. From its very inception, Zionism was rejected and resisted by the indigenous Palestinian people. They never wanted to give Palestine away to colonizers who came with the explicit goal of marginalizing the population of Palestine, destroying their alternative.
Also, just so you know, the protests in Gaza were not just against Hamas, it was also against Israel as well. I mean, yeah. Ethan literally said Hamas provokes Israel into attacking them.
Alternative mode of existence and eliminating their cultural and historical.
Did Ethan reply to this video? You know, concerningly, he did. And do you want to know what he said? His response was, to distill it, it was, well, what does this guy know anyways? What does this white boy know anyways? I'm exaggerating for comedic effect. He did not call him a white boy. Only for this guy to say, dog, I got a master's in Middle Eastern studies.
Historical contributions to the land of Palestine. And so until Ethan can see that there is no Zionism without the Nakba, without the current expulsion of Palestinians, without the settlement in the West Bank, this man will remain forever a confused Zionist who will continue to aid and abet Israel's extermination of the Palestinian people.
Yep. And with that, chat, I have to show you all, this is the perfect segue, all right? Because I actually see this as like a huge positive that we get to see such incredible people talk about incredible issues and from informed perspectives from years of research and studying. And that Ethan Klein, because he's so polarizing, so many people are interested in what they have to say about him. That someone like this guy, Chris Kunzler, gets to talk about these issues to a much wider audience that gets to inform so many more people about Palestine, about the history of Palestine. I think it's only fair that we take JD Vance's advice. And have you guys said thank you even once?
Thank you, Ethan Klein. You are my best friend. You are the rent payer. You are the legend. Thank you, Ethan Klein. You are my best friend. You are the rent payer. You are the legend. Thank you, Ethan Klein, defender of genocide, helping small creators grow a larger size. In 2025, promoting the left side, Denims, B and Frogan, Hassanabi and Mike. Thank you, Ethan Klein. You are my best friend. You are the rent payer.
And with that, guys,
Thank you.
I will be heading off for today. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Stay hydrated, tell your homies you love them, and I will see you all for a wonderful Mold Monday. Bye.